tuilinde, tuwajibike, tulimarike, umoja wetu linguzo yetu, indumu jumuiya yetu, vizalendo pia mushikamano, viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu, jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuwajibike, tulimarike, umoja wetu linguzo yetu, indumu jumuiya yetu, viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe na hali na mali, ninajenje jumuiya bora, jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuwajibike, tulimarike, umoja wetu linguzo yetu, indumu jumuiya yetu.
Eunice, please come and give us a word of prayer. Eunice is a Principal Public Relations Officer in the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities. You're welcome.
Let's humble ourselves in prayer. Father, we want to thank you for this special day, Wildlife Day, when we join the rest of the world to celebrate the efforts and achievements towards conservation. We commit this special day into your hands. Grant all custodians of wildlife, and mainly our leaders, your wisdom, your guidance and mercy as we steer the government's agenda, which is to conserve these nature's gifts for future generations. We thank you for the gift of life, for wonderful weather today, for having protected each and every one of us from the deadly virus that claimed thousands of lives. We commit the day and the planned activities into your hands, and Father, that it will be for a just cause. In God's mighty name we've prayed. Amen. Amen.
Thank you. We can take seats. And thank you very much the team that led us in the anthems. You've done a great job. I request that we give these young people a round of applause. They've done a good job. Our chief guest, Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, the Honorable Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, the Minister of State, Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, the Honorable Members of Parliament who are here with us, ambassadors, Excellencies ambassadors from Italy, from the United States, the acting United Nations Development Program resident representative, and the head of the EU delegation, the heads of agencies in the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, our colleagues, the partners in conservation, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome. Today we are marking a very important day in our history as a country. Of course, we are commemorating the United Nations World Wildlife Day under the theme Recovering Key Species for Ecosystem Conservation. I have a very short program which is detailed enough to ensure that everything that we had planned is covered within this particular program. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bashir Hanji. I'm the Manager for Communication and Public Relations at Uganda Wildlife Authority. Your Excellency, quite a number of people who are here today, many of them are conservationists, but others are lovers of conservation. I must say that all the agencies under the ministry, the boards are all here, and the private players. The minister has always told us that tourism as a sector is government-led, but private sector-driven. Therefore, we have all the private actors here with us. We have a short program which I want to share with you. After visiting the exhibitions and the anthems and the prayer, I want to invite the Executive Director of Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center, Dr. James Msinguzi, to come and officially welcome us to this venue. You're welcome, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies, Your Excellency the Vice President, Honorable Jessica Lupo, the Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Honorable Tom Botime, other cabinet ministers present, Minister of State for Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Honorable Martin Mugara. I've also seen the Minister of State for Finance, Honorable Musasizi, the Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Doreen Katusime, ambassadors, the United Nations representative to Uganda, honorable members of Parliament, the district chairman of Wakiso, Mr. Rwanga Bwanika, UEC board members, management of staff and management and staff of UEC, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. James Msinguzi, the Executive Director of the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center. On behalf of management and staff of the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center, I would like to welcome you, Your Excellency, and the other dignitaries to the Uganda Wildlife Education Center. Please feel at home. As we celebrate the World Wildlife Day today, I am glad to report that you are seated at UEC Entebbe Zoo, which is the best zoo in East, West, and Central Africa, as ranked by the Pan-African Association of Zoos and Aquariums, which makes Uganda very proud. Through my chairmanship of the Pan-African Zoo Association, we have kept the African zoo fraternity together as we promote Pan-Africanism and animal welfare. We are also proud members of the World Association of Zoos and Aquaria, where we are playing a key role in world zoo affairs on behalf of Uganda. In line with the theme for today, recovering endangered species for ecosystem restoration, I would like to report that UEC has succeeded in breeding some endangered species like lions, and discussions are underway with the relevant stakeholders to reintroduce some of them back into the wild as a research project. Your Excellency, you toured the heart of the lions, the family, and you saw for yourself. Thank you for taking time to do that. The other mandate of UEC, Your Excellency and distinguished guests, is carrying out conservation education. We offer both on-site and outreach conservation education using a practical approach. Currently, we have embarked on a journey to produce the first ever conservation education strategy for Uganda, which will streamline conservation education in Uganda. We are also in the process of establishing regional wildlife conservation education centers across the various regions of Uganda in eastern, northern, and western Uganda. I am glad to report that land has already been provided by the National Forest Authority, to whom we are very grateful, in these regions for the purpose of setting up regional satellite centers. We want to take conservation education and the zoos to the people for sustainable wildlife and environmental management. Not everybody in Uganda can afford to come to Entebbe, given the costs that are involved. So it is our desire that we establish such a center across Uganda in the various regions, and we call upon development partners and other stakeholders to join us in this cause. Your Excellency and distinguished guests, we also rescue and rehabilitate wildlife from human-wildlife conflicts in partnership with the Uganda Wildlife Authority, whose support we applaud. The acquisition of a wildlife rescue ambulance has supported this activity, and we plan to acquire regional wildlife rescue ambulances, and we welcome any partnership in this regard. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, we currently keep 417 individual wild animals categorized in 60 different species, and we offer exceptional animal welfare. We have been audited and found to be operationally compliant by the Pan-African Zoo Association, which regulates all zoos in Africa. But we have also been able to enroll as members of the World Association of Zoos and Aquaria, which is a very highly prestigious body, and it is by invitation. You must have met the criteria, and we are glad that we were invited, owing to the best zoo practices that we are offering here. We have also put efforts in recreation. We appreciate the support this plays for the cognitive support to learning for our young generation. And in this regard, we have the best children play area in Entebbe. As you can see across Your Excellency and dignitaries, this is the children play area. When they come and learn, they end up with play so that they don't get bored. And they continue wanting to come, and they actually pester their parents to bring them back. And to us, that is positive because we continue to inculcate the message as our wish. Thank you. We also have the best and longest beach in Entebbe. This afternoon, as we go for lunch, you'll have a very good glimpse of that. Nature-friendly cottages and apartments, as well as a restaurant for good food, as you will attest to the state of the food today. Your Excellency, our work involves working directly with wild animals. Quite a challenging task, and we have managed to excel at it, courtesy of the strong team we have put in place. I want to thank all the staff, my colleagues at UEC, for your passion, professionalism, and excellent teamwork. Let's clap for them. I also thank our Board of Trustees for the critical policy direction accorded to us as management and staff. I would like to thank partners, the United Nations Development Program, for having sponsored the construction of a wildlife discovery center, which Your Excellency has just launched this afternoon. The center is going to help us to educate children about wildlife conservation from the known domestic animals to the unknown wild animals. Let's clap for the UNDP for this gesture. I thank the government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, for the support over the years and during the COVID-19 pandemic. The leadership of Honorable Tom Butime, our line minister, Honorable Martin Mugara, our state minister, the permanent secretary, Ms. Doreen Katusime, has been outstanding, and we are grateful to you for making us reach this far. I think they deserve a bigger hand clap. You all know how COVID was devastating, and we woke up one day and we had to close the zoo, and yet the animals had to feed, and the staff had to be paid. So they made us wade through. I want to thank the honorable members of parliament, especially those on the Tourism, Trade and Industry Committee, for appropriating funds for the running of UEC affairs. However, I would like to note, and I think I need to use this opportunity, Your Excellency, and since the Minister of Finance is here, we have just received the second budget call circular. And our budget has been slashed from 18 billion to 5 billion. No single coin has been provided for capital development. As you have seen, Honorable Musasizi, the work is so unique and requires reinforcing of fences, keeping the staff motivated, and so please, as we go on to the discussions for the budget framework paper, I kindly request for special consideration for the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center, because we handle a fragile job where you must ensure all the animals are safe within their exhibits. There is no room for escape, because one animal escaping can destroy Uganda's tourism sector. So I beg that we are considered for a further budget increment for us to be able to do our job very well, given the staff that are highly dedicated and passionate, but also the development that is required for us to secure the animals, especially regarding welfare. They have animal diets, they have to be fed, and this food has to be bought, Most of them, you have seen, Honorable Minister, that the one lion feeds on 8 kilograms of meat per day. And so it is they are highly demanding, and we request for support in this regard. I thank the Mayor of Entebbe, His Worship Fabrice Lulinda, and the Chairman of Wakiso, the Town Clerk Entebbe, Mr. Magumba, for the excellent working relationship between UWEC and Entebbe Municipal Council, as well as Wakiso District. I thank the National Organizing Committee and the Ministry for choosing UWEC to host World Wildlife Day 2022. Finally, I would like to thank Ugandans here in terms of the support we are given. Your Excellency and distinguished guests, I would like to report that our visitation is at the moment 90% Ugandans. And this shows how domestic tourism has been boosted. So I want to thank you, because when you come to visit, you give us animals to feed the animals, to carry out the education, but also to make sure that the staff are motivated. I would also like to single out Mr. Rahul. Mr. Rahul, please stand for recognition. Your Excellency and distinguished guest, Mr. Rahul is the chairman of the Indian Association of Uganda. He has helped us a lot in mobilizing the Indian community. They are so passionate about wildlife. They bring animal food, they give us cash, and especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, Mr. Rahul enabled us to mobilize cash to a tune of 150 million that helped us to sustain the animals during the COVID-19. Mr. Rahul, I thank you very much, and we look forward to a continued fruitful partnership with you. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the time you'll spend at UWEC. I invite you to tour the center after the official function. Our educators are strategically positioned at the various exhibits and are ready to receive you. I thank you, and I say all this for God and my country.
Thank you very much, Edie. At this time, let us invite the chairman of the board of UWEC, Mr. Benson Katumba. Please do come and also make your remarks. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Jessica Lupo, Your Excellencies, the ambassadors accredited to Uganda, Honorable our Minister, Honorable Tom Butime, and our State Minister, Honorable Magara, I understand as the Minister of Finance, Honorable Musasi. Yes. Our Permanent Secretary, yes, Madam Doreen Katusime. The names are Benoni Sevina Katumba, not Benson. The current UWEC board chairperson. The ambassadors, United Nations representative, honorable members of parliament here, His Worship the Mayor, if he is present, and the chairperson of Wakiso District, a very prominent advocate of environment, Honorable Matia Rwangabwanika, other fellow colleagues, UWEC board members, management of UWA staff, and the ED, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as I've said earlier, my name is Kasumba Benoni Sevina, the board chairman of UWEC. But before I continue, I want also to register my appreciation for my predecessor, Honorable, currently the Member of Parliament, Honorable Flavia Rwabholo, who is seated among us here, and who should deserve a big clap, because without her, I don't think I would have been able to fit in the shoes. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees of Uganda Wildlife Conservation and Education Center, I would like to take this special opportunity to welcome you Your Excellency, together with the distinguished dignitaries, to work as we join the rest of the world to celebrate the United Nations World Wildlife Day. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce members of the board present here. I'll start with Dr. Patrick Atimnedi. He's seated somewhere. Yes, he's right there. That one chairs the Operations Committee. Mr. Leon Chandia, representing us at the ministry, is also must be somewhere very busy with his arrangements. The rest of the board members are either indisposed, but they are sending in their apologies and they are with us in spirit. Finally, I have to introduce Dr. James Musinguzi, the Executive Director, who has just given us his speech. And we thank you very much, Honorable Minister and Wildlife Antiquities, for entrusting us with the responsibility of overseeing the Wildlife Education Conservation Center. Work started way back in 1952, ladies and gentlemen, and has been transforming up to this day. Those of you that happened to visit the place many years ago would attest to the fact that work was dilapidated. And now, majority of the world, the old folks, still have those images in their minds. A lot has been achieved to the point that work is referred to as the window to Uganda, and this is simply because of its setup. The exhibits depict the various national parks that we have in Uganda, the kind of wildlife species we can find therein, thereby acting as a marketing tool for Uganda national parks. This means that any visitor coming to Uganda that first visits work, he gets a glimpse of what to expect in the national parks and is able to link that to the important role that this organization plays in tourism, wildlife, and wildlife conservation. The board plays an oversight role over work management, and I'm glad to report that a lot of effort is being put in to achieve the mandates of work as enshrined in the Work Act 2015. The transformation you see at work is as a result of concerted effort and dedicated effort of management and staff, to whom we are very grateful. We have already given a round of applause for that. We thank the government of Uganda and our development partners for the immense support accorded to work over the years. Like the legendary Oliver Twist, we ask for more to continue transforming work as we deliver our mandates. I wish you happy and joyous celebrations of the World Wildlife Day. Thank you very much for God and my country.
Thank you very much. With us, we have Honorable Mwebesa Francis, Minister for Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. Sir, thank you so much for coming. We acknowledge your presence and we really appreciate you. We also have Honorable Henry Musasizi, Minister of State for Finance. He also joined us today to celebrate with us. Ladies and gentlemen, it is this time that I should invite the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, to come and make remarks. You are welcome, Madam.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Jessica Rose Alupo, Honorable Ministers, our Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Honorable Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, our Ministers of State, Honorable Members of Parliament, I want in a special way to welcome the members of our committee, the Committee on Tourism, Trade and Industry in Parliament, Your Excellencies, the Ambassadors, High Commissioners, Heads of Missions, my colleagues, Permanent Secretary present, our Directors and Commissioners from the Ministry of Tourism and other ministries, Boards of Trustees, boards of our different agencies, the chief executives of these agencies here. Your Excellency, during your tour, you must have seen that all our agencies are here: Uganda Wildlife Authority, Uganda Tourism Board, Uganda Hotel and Tourism Training Institute, Uganda Wildlife Research and Training Institute. Those are the agencies that fall under the ministry, and of course, the Uganda Wildlife Education Conservation Center, where we are. The local government leadership, I think the previous speakers have recognized them all. The chairperson, Wakiso, the mayor, and all other local leaders, our development partners, the private sector associations, representatives of the media, our children, students, girls and boys, Muzei Bazukulu, all our invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you all here today as we celebrate the 9th United Nations World Wildlife Day in Uganda. I want to thank you so much for honoring our invitation. And I also recognize those who are following us online, because we could not have everyone here physically. Your Excellency, this is our 9th celebration since the United Nations General Assembly, under Resolution 68, proclaimed the 3rd March of every year as World Wildlife Day on 20th December 2013. The main objective is to celebrate and raise awareness of the world's diversity of wild animals and plants, and to highlight the contributions these unique creatures make to our existence and survival. Your Excellency, we celebrate this year's Wildlife Day under the theme, Recovering Key Species for Ecosystem Restoration. The theme re-echoes the need for all of us to recognize the critical importance of these species and ecosystems. It also highlights the need to recognize the ecological, social, and environmental benefits that accrue from conserving the key species. And that forms the basis for our being here today. Your Excellency, we are aware that despite the endowment and potential, some of our wildlife resources are in danger due to poaching, habitat degradation, and loss. COVID-19 has also had its impact on our sector. However, we are very positive that we are now in recovery mood, and after the reopening of the economy, we are going to see a lot of growth in the sector. We have developed several sector policies and plans specifically to address the threats facing these species. The sector has developed numerous plans and strategies to guide implementation of a host of these interventions. Your Excellency, we shall continue to implement these policies, plans, and strategies, as well as enforce laws and guidelines to engage stakeholders to address the challenges. Your Excellency and our distinguished guests, we have been involved in successive events that have culminated into the main celebrations today. We have had the Conservation Conference on Illegal Wildlife Crime, which was held on the 8th and 9th February at Hotel Protea in Kampala. We had the virtual wildlife conservation competitions for schools. For primary schools was on the 26th of February. For the secondary schools in art and poetry, this was on 28th February 2022. And for tertiary institutions, the competition, specifically the quiz, was on 26th February. Winners of the school competitions will be announced today here and be awarded their prizes. We also had the Crane Festival in Lwengo District on 28th February, where our minister was the chief guest. And this was to raise awareness and highlight the conservation issues affecting the Uganda crane, which is our national bird. Conservation awards to recognize eminent persons that have contributed towards sustainable wildlife conservation in Uganda will also be done today, here, 3rd of March, as part of the main event. Today's main celebrations at UWEC permit me to thank all our partners, Your Excellency, You have already met some of them. I would like to thank the Wildlife Conservation Society, Wildlife Clubs of Uganda, European Union, United Nations Development Program, UNDP, Worldwide Fund for Nature, International Trade Foundation, the Jane Goodall Institute, the Chimpanzee Trust, and our technical team at the Ministry and its affiliated agencies, Uganda Wildlife Authority, Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center, Uganda Wildlife Research and Training Institute, who spearheaded the mobilization, planning, and organizing this successful event. I also extend our sincere appreciation for hosting us today to UWEC. Dr. Musingzi and your team, we thank you very much. I would like to thank our ministers, Honorable Butime and Honorable Mugarra, for the political guidance they continue to offer as we continue to steer the sector. Your Excellency, once again, I would like to thank you for blessing this event, and I hope you'll enjoy your stay with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam PS. Ladies and gentlemen, allow us to invite the acting UNDP resident representative to come and make remarks. You are welcome.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Deputy President, Republic of Uganda, Honorable Jessica Alupo, Honorable Minister, Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Honorable Tom Butime, all the distinguished ministers and members of Parliament, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Wildlife, Tourism and Antiquities, all the executive directors of the various government institutions, Excellencies, development partners, NGO partners, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. I am honored today to join you on behalf of the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, as we commemorate this World Wildlife Day, celebrated annually since 2013. The day is intended to raise awareness on the importance of wildlife conservation and to strengthen measures to end illegal wildlife trade and poaching. And as has been said, the theme for this day is recovering key species for ecosystem restoration. And as UNDP, we are very pleased to be here. Excellency, I bring greetings from Ms. Elsie Atafua, the UNDP resident representative. She's out of Uganda on official business, but she extends her warm greetings to yourself, Excellency, and to all the partners here. We thank the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, the Uganda Wildlife Authority, and the Uganda Wildlife Education Center, among others who have organized this event, which is globally celebrated. Why is this day important? The United Nations Environment Assembly, in fact, that ended yesterday in Nairobi, under the overall theme for strengthening actions for nature to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, highlighted the pivotal role that nature, including endangered species, play in sustainable development. And the new International Policy Committee on Climate Change report for 2021 indicates that the ability to produce food relies on the water, soils, and pollination provided by a healthy natural world. And this report said that protection of wild places and wildlife is fundamental to coping with the climate crisis. But the reality is that animals and plants are being exposed to climatic conditions which have not been experienced for thousands of years. And half of studied species have already been forced to move, and many face extinction. And therefore, taking action to protect important biodiversity areas is thus critical in increasing nature's resilience to climate shocks and to protect vulnerable species. The United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres' message for this year's World Wildlife Day highlights the importance of the UN decade on ecosystem restoration, and where he stated, and I quote, that ecosystems are only healthy when their component species thrive. If just one keystone species disappears, an entire ecosystem can start to decline and die. And this is why actions to protect individual species must go hand in hand with restoring entire ecosystems. End of quote. According to Uganda's revised National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan for 2016, Uganda ranks among the top 10 most diverse countries in the world. Uganda is host to 53.9% of the world's population of mountain gorillas. Uganda is host to 11% of the world's recorded species of birds. And in Africa, 50% of bird species are found in Uganda. Uganda has 7.8% of the global mammal diversity. In Africa, 39%. It has 19% of Africa's amphibian species, 14% of Africa's reptile species. Uganda has 1,249 recorded species of butterflies and 600 species of fish. Uganda is home to a significant number of globally endangered species, notably the mountain gorilla, chimpanzees, lions, elephants, rhino, the crested crane, the shoebill stork, among others. Truly, Uganda is gifted by nature. So as the United Nations, we salute the very important work done by the government of Uganda for ratifying the Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species, CITES, for revising its national wildlife policy, for the amended Uganda Wildlife Act and the revised National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, all of which provide a policy and legal framework for the country's wildlife conservation efforts. And it is gratifying, Your Excellency, today to see so many members of Parliament here today, given the vital role that they play. Thank you for that. At the United Nations Development Programme, we have over the years supported the government in collaboration with other partners to promote wildlife and environment conservation through several initiatives, which include but are not limited to the tourism policy review, the development of Uganda's tourism master plan, support to elephant conservation through the Giant Club Conservation and Tourism Investment Forum, which was hosted by His Excellency the President in 2018 in Kampala, the reintroduction and microchipping of rhinos, strengthening the capacity of youth and women and ex-poachers to participate in tourism value chain. In addition, strengthened protected area management for Kidepo critical landscape conservation, mountain gorilla and chimpanzee conservation community initiatives, and the designation of Ramsar sites for wetlands, among others. And specifically, in order to stimulate the recovery of the tourism sector in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, UNDP has worked with several partners, including the Ministry, UWA, UTB, and we have supported UWEC to construct a children's conservation education center, which Your Excellency, you just launched. And we've also worked to develop biodiversity guidebooks and also working to introduce for resource mobilization to support initiatives geared towards the introduction of white rhinos, among others. We're also supporting the government through the various partners to improve wildlife monitoring and protection. And today there will be a number of drones, radios, and other equipment that will be handed over. We have also been working to build the capacity of Uganda Safari Guides Association, including the Uganda Birders Association. And Uganda indeed is one of the first countries in Africa to set up a Women Birders Association. I was in Karamoja a few days ago, and it was wonderful to see young women who are part of this Uganda Women Birders Association, one of the first in Africa. We have also done a lot of work in promoting mountain tourism and cultural tourism in the Rwenzori, and also with the Toro Kingdom, the Echoto Hampango, and also one of the members of parliament is here, and he also recognized that work. Thank you. And there's a lot of work also that has been done on restoration of wetlands and associated catchments, and support to lion conservation in Ishasha through the UNDP Lion's Share Innovation Fund. So as I conclude, UNDP sincerely thanks the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities for leading the organization of this event, and in a special way with UWEC for hosting us today and championing the conservation efforts. We appreciate all the government agencies represented here and all the development partners, including USAID, Italy, the European Union, and others, including other UN agencies, the World Tourism Organization, UNEP, NGO organizations. The WWF is here, one of our partners, WCS, the Jane Goodall Institute, among others, for the partnership in support of Uganda's wildlife conservation efforts. UNDP is committed to support the government of Uganda to promote wildlife conservation, which is critical in Uganda's efforts to achieve the SDGs and the overall Vision 2030. I wish us all an exciting and fruitful World Wildlife Day celebration where we all recommit to the noble vision of wildlife protection and conservation. I thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the important contribution by the UNDP towards wildlife conservation in Uganda and the tourism sector in general. Much appreciated. Your Excellency, allow me to invite the ambassador of the United States in Uganda to come and make remarks.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of Uganda, Honorable Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Honorable Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, other distinguished government officials, members of Parliament, and dignitaries, also members of the Diplomatic Corps, the head of delegation for the European Union, the ambassador to Italy, and other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I must express my appreciation for being here, for representing the United States. I am Richard Nelson, the USAID Mission Director, representing the ambassador to the United States, who unfortunately was unable to attend today, but she very much would have liked to have been here. The United States is a strong partner of Uganda and very committed to supporting Uganda in its conservation and management efforts, in particular in preserving the very precious wildlife that exists here in Uganda. We've already seen and heard today that Uganda's wildlife is not only a part of your national and natural heritage, but also an important economic resource for current and future generations of Ugandans. The largely wildlife-based tourism industry in Uganda has emerged as a robust source of growth and development. Within a decade, the number of foreign visitors more than doubled from 642,000 in 2007 to more than 1.3 million by 2016. In 2018, Uganda's tourist arrivals grew by 7.4% alone, from 1.4 million to 1.5 million. And that has continued up until the COVID crisis. But we know that tourism revenue has been a significant benefit to Uganda in terms of foreign exchange. And that foreign exchange grew from 10.1% grew by 10.1% from $1.5 billion in 2017 to 1.6 billion in 2018. More than 667,000 people were employed in the travel and tourism industry in 2018. And that has continued up through right before the COVID pandemic. And as we've seen in most places, the impact of COVID on tourism has been significant. But we're already seeing an uptick. And in a conversation I had earlier this week with the executive director of Uganda Wildlife Authority, he told me that tourism is already up to 50% of what it was pre-COVID. But even more significantly, most of those tourists are Ugandan, which is impressive. And I think that sets a very positive tone for the recovery of the tourism industry, because the foreign tourists will come. They will come back. But with that base of Ugandan tourism, the recovery will be even stronger. I've been in Uganda now for 2 years, officially, and I have been able to be a tourist and see much of Uganda. I have been able to see many of the national parks here. I've been to Bwindi to see the gorillas. I've been to Lake Mburo to see the giraffes. I've been to Queen Elizabeth to see the tree-climbing lions and the other animals there, in Murchison to see leopards, and Lake Mburo to see leopards. Uganda is truly blessed with significant wildlife diversity that has contributed so much to its economic growth thus far. For many years, USAID's been a partner with the Uganda Wildlife Authority to improve services in the national parks. More recently, we've helped establish community wildlife conservancies actually, in areas surrounding the national parks where much of the wildlife lives. The USAID-funded Biodiversity for Resilience activity is supporting UA and the National Forestry Authority, as well as district and local authorities and the private sector, and the communities to conserve and manage biodiversity in these target ecosystems for lasting environmental and economic sustainability. We anticipate that with this integrated partnership approach, Uganda will maintain momentum in biodiversity conservation and species recovery. It'll reduce conflicts with wildlife and protect Uganda's iconic flora and fauna. Because of these investments in conservation enterprises, ordinary Ugandans living near protected areas will directly see the value of protecting wildlife. And they'll see that value in the form of more shillings in their pockets. The USAID Biodiversity for Resilience activity is also working with UA and community conservancies to develop private sector partnerships to manage wildlife and improve livelihoods in the areas adjacent to Kidepo Valley, Murchison Falls, Lake Mburo, in those parks. Murchison Community Conservancy, for example, is a wildlife dispersal corridor next to Murchison Falls National Park. It has an amazing head scout named Lakisa. She leads a team that gathers information about wildlife sightings and movements in the area. They also monitor threats and illegal activities such as poaching, wildfire, charcoal production, and tree cutting. Sometimes wild animals such as elephants destroy crops, especially during the harvest season, and Lakisa and her team directly help to reduce or avoid these conflicts by maneuvering the animals away from farmers' fields or alerting UA for other additional support. That's the type of activity that we like to see, that's community-based and helping to support these national treasures. The activity is also supporting the National Forest Authority in strengthening a collaborative on forest management and economic opportunities, like honey production, agroforestry, and ecotourism in Budongo and Kalinzu Central Forest Reserves, and in the Karamoja and Achwa ranges. We all recognize the significant challenges that Uganda faces combating wildlife crime, as both a source of wildlife products and as a country of transit. Through our Combating Wildlife Crime activity, we helped launch the CITES e-permitting system to combat illegal wildlife trade and transform the conservation sector to ensure sustainable and accelerated growth in legal wildlife trade. In a recent visit to Murchison Falls National Park, I also saw the challenges of human-wildlife conflict and how that affects communities living with transitory wildlife. And I'm pleased that our USAID wildlife activities are contributing to some of the innovative solutions, helping to protect people's livelihoods, as well as to protect Uganda's irreplaceable wildlife. More still, through the U.S. Defense Threat Reduction Agency, the U.S. government supported the construction of a state-of-the-art laboratory at Mwea, Queen Elizabeth National Park. This biosafety level 2 laboratory gives the Uganda Wildlife Authority the capability to detect, survey, and report emerging and re-emerging animal diseases caused by dangerous pathogens. During the inauguration of that laboratory last November, Ambassador Brown said our partnership is not only making Uganda a safer country, but is also increasing regional, continental, and global standards in disease detection, diagnostics, and surveillance. While all of us here recognize the importance of wildlife, this challenge will ultimately be the responsibility of the generation to come. To emphasize this message to the youth, the U.S. government funded the development of 2 episodes of the NGen Youth television series, recently filmed in the Murchison area, focused on wildlife conflict. And these episodes recently aired on NTV, and they'll be available soon on YouTube. So in closing, I'd like to thank the government of Uganda and other development partners for their partnership and their continued commitment toward conserving wildlife in Uganda. Uganda's spectacular wildlife is an irreplaceable resource that is closely tied to Uganda's future economic potential. I've seen and I know that what a precious resource this is and that is worth saving. Thank you. Thank you.
Uganda Nunzinho, the pearl of Africa, the land of beauty, good people.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure whether they can see me, but they were saying it is dark here, but if it is not, we can continue. Is it dark? Camera people, is it dark? It is not. Thank you very much. Oh, I appreciate your assistance. Yeah, Your Excellency, at this time, allow me to invite the EU head of delegation to Uganda to come and make remarks. Meanwhile, Air Force Secondary School, get ready for the presentation. Thank you.
Uganda Nunzinho, the pearl of Africa, the land of beauty.
Thank you very much. Her Excellency, the Vice President of Uganda, Jessica Lupo, Honorable Minister for Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Tom Butime, Honorable State Ministers, colleagues, ambassadors, the representative of the UN Resident Coordinator, Honorable Members of Parliament present, the PS, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, a representative of European Union member states, of other development partners, the USA, representatives of other ministries, departments and agencies of the government of Uganda and of the local authorities, civil society and other actors committed, engaged in conserving, supporting Uganda in its efforts and work in protecting and conserving wildlife. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all. As European Union Ambassador, I would like to convey the warmest greetings from Europe to you all. It is a great pleasure to be associated to the organization of this year UN World Wildlife Day celebrations. We have worked hand in hand with the organizers and the other funders to mark this day, and this shows our long-standing commitment to reverse biodiversity loss, as well as to protect and restore the amazing natural assets of Uganda. This year's theme focuses on the interlinkages between species and their ecosystems and the compelling need to protect species of wild flora and fauna at risk. Critically endangered species are found everywhere in the world, in Europe and in Uganda as well, and their extinction ultimately puts in danger the survival of the human species as well. Indeed, let us remind ourselves that 1 million species on the planet are currently at risk of extinction, 1 million species. Important ecosystems which depend on and are under threat, and in turn, this affects global food security, food systems, and ultimately security and economies. Let us also remember that extinction means forever. Whatever is an animal or a tree, and once it has gone extinct, is impossible to be recovered. It is gone forever. Same applies to human species. When I participated to this event, to a similar event actually last year, I referred to one of the key lessons learned from COVID pandemic, which is the absolute interdependence in our world between every living creature and its habitat. This year's theme cannot be more appropriate. In the year of the Convention on Biological Diversity, we need more than ever before to be determined and committed in our objectives. As the European Union, we advocate for the world to adopt an ambitious goal, a global biodiversity framework. This is what the European Union and its member states have been aiming at through the European Green Deal and the biodiversity strategy for the year 2030. These strategies have a strong external dimension, and for this reason, the European Union is committed last year to double its external funding for biodiversity to the partner countries. In Uganda, we, European Union ambassadors, have chosen to step up our political engagement to support line ministries, institutions, and individuals in their efforts to promote environment and wildlife protection in Uganda. Just an example that comes to my mind is the fact that this will include, among others, also the training of Uganda Wildlife Authority rangers by the forestry branch of the Italian military police called Carabinieri. So thank you for my colleague, the Italian ambassador, sitting here today. We all know that the losses and damages to Uganda natural environment, forests, woodlands, grasslands, and wetlands in the past 25 years have been dramatic. Ensuring protection and conservation of the remaining Uganda natural assets is a paramount priority and a crucial foundation over which future restoration work should rest. This is an important point. We should preserve and conserve what we have before starting reforestation, starting efforts to rebuild what we have lost. Let's protect what we got, and then we start working on rebuilding what has been lost. I'm very proud that this concern is strongly reflected in our new cooperation framework with Uganda. With one of its country priorities aiming at supporting a green and climate transition, the European Union will work with Uganda on a number of key sectors, including forestry, climate finance, sustainable cities, but also ecotourism and related value chains. We need also to look at these interventions in the context of a broader regional cooperation around transboundary protected areas. And in this regard, I'm very proud of the support given by the European Union over the years, and now much more, to the Greater Virunga landscape, which involves the Virunga National Park across the DRC border and the Queen Elizabeth in Uganda. This program has brought together the Uganda Wildlife Authority and the management of the Virunga National Park, and I see great potentials for joining forces around other important biodiversity hotspots in the country. Another example of how we can work together is the forest partnership, which is a non-binding agreement between the European Union and Uganda. We are working together on it with the Ministry in charge of water and environment, and I'm sure it will bring us closer on critical issues, including the protection and conservation of ecosystems and wildlife corridors, and of course, the remaining natural forests in Uganda. We are in parallel proposing an ambitious program to support such a partnership on forests, and we will continue our engagement at all levels in years to come. What means, in short, is on one side we want to have a political engagement, something which gives a vision, something that shows the world that we are going to move together towards the same goals, and there are only 5 countries in the world, Uganda being one of them, with which we are negotiating this special partnership. On the other side, we will underscore this political understanding with significant financing. We will start with a certain amount, and I'm sure if results come, this amount will be significantly increased. The starting amount is probably going to be 40 million euro. We will keep these themes at the center of our political dialogue and of our cooperation with Uganda in the medium and even more so in the long term. I'm very glad to see that these themes have become central also in Uganda in the approval of the 10-year plan of action for the restoration of the environment of natural resources in Uganda is an important step. It's a very important step forward. Finally, biodiversity conservation, climate change, mitigation and adaptation and environment protection need a major behavior change of approach, especially on the side of the youth. For this reason, I'm happy to announce that we are in discussion with the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center to build up a partnership to support awareness raising and training of youth in educational institutions in Uganda, in this area and upcountry, so to sensitize young people, students, on the importance and the need for wildlife and habitat conservations through programs already offered by the center. I had a discussion with the director, and we really want to make this happen quickly, to have schools coming here and being educated, and we will take care of the financial consequences and aspects of that. More than ever before, I would like to reiterate the plea that I made last year on the same day to those who are already active in wildlife conservation, environmental protection and sustainable tourism to continue walking, actually running, on the challenging but rewarding path of promoting economic, environment and social sustainability in all our development efforts. That is an aspect that must be central to all what we do together in this country and what the government does on its own, using its own resources as well. A big appreciation goes to the organizer of this event, and thank you to all for giving us an opportunity once more to address such an important audience in this very important day. Ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Vice President, Honorable Minister, I wish you and everyone else a very wonderful World Wildlife Day 2022. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. The support is so much appreciated. And indeed, with your support, we are able to move miles in terms of wildlife conservation and developing our tourism sector in the country. Your Excellency, at this time, allow me to inform you that every year we award people who are nominated for having made tremendous contributions towards wildlife conservation in Uganda. And as one of the activities that was held during the World Wildlife Week, there were competitions that were held, and again, today we are going to be awarding the winners of these competitions. Therefore, allow me to invite the Program Officer of Wildlife Clubs of Uganda to come here and present the winners. And the Minister will be the honors, will do the honors of awarding the winners of the primary, secondary, and tertiary conservation competitions for 2022. Thank you very much. Allow me to invite the Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities to come and preside over the award to the winners. You're welcome, sir. DJ, let us hand over to Angela.
Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities. We are going to present awards to the primary school category under essay writing. Number one is Green Hill Academy, Aviv Shalom Tikiva, the overall winner, and gets 1 million in cash and a certificate. As Tikiva is getting her prize, Mr. Ben of Marine Base Army Primary School, please come forward. A cash prize of 500,000. That is Tikiva of Green Hill Academy, Chibuli. And will be followed by Mr. Ben of Marine Base Primary School, with a cash prize of 500,000.
Yeah, he's doing.
Mr. Ben will be followed by Ainebiona Eve of Ineza Primary School, Kisoro, as the second runner-up, and she's getting a cash prize of 350,000.
The recipients, please make sure that you display the certificates very well for pictures.
Followed by Nabutiti Joan, the overall winner for the Fine Art Challenge. She gets 1 million Ugandan shillings, and she's from St. Teresa Girls Primary School in Namiryango. Nabutiti Joan will be followed by Abigail Prudence Kisache of Faith Walk Home School in Wakiso, and she gets a prize of 500,000 cash. And Abigail will be followed by Sewagude Eriana of Wudo Junior School, Wakiso, a cash prize of 350,000. And the primary school category will be followed by the secondary school category. Secondary did poetry and fine art, and in poetry, Katwine Mariam of Gayaza High School was the overall winner and gets 1 million cash prize. Gayaza High School will be followed by Namudi Dokas Nakwere of Tororo Girls Secondary School in Tororo, with a cash prize of 500,000. Gayaza High School, are you near? And Tororo Girls will be followed by Avine Derek Tulije of Vuntale School in Mbarara as the second runner-up and gets 350 as a cash prize. Would like to thank our sponsors, UWEC, Uganda Wildlife Education Center, UWA, the John Goodall Institute, the Wildlife Clubs of Uganda. Yes, Gayaza High School. Overall winner, Katrina Mariam, 1 million Uganda shillings.
It's still here.
Yes, Tororo Girls is there.
The envelope for Gayas is this one.
Yeah, for Tororo Girls. It is here. Tororo. Gayaza High School hasn't come, that is Tororo Girls. And Tororo Girls will be followed by Intale School. Is Intale School near? Yes. Okay. And then from that we shall go to the fine art category. Aijuka Anthony of Mbarara High School in Mbarara go to the first position and gets 1 million cash prize. This is Mbarara School. No. So Mbarara High School gets 1 million. Is the overall winner for the fine art competition. And the first runner-up is St. Peter's Secondary School, Nadia. Obua Terence gets 500,000. Obua Terence will be followed by Seta High School main campus. Okror Mark Gregory as the second runner-up and gets a cash prize of 350,000. Our sponsors, Conservation Through Public Health, Umoja Conservation Trust, Uganda Wildlife Research and Training Institute, Chimpanzee Trust, and the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, we thank you very much. So we go for the tertiary institutions category. The tertiary institutions. The tertiary institutions category was a quiz competition, and Uganda Wildlife Research and Training Institute was the overall winner and gets 2 million Uganda shillings as a cash prize. Uganda Wildlife Research Institute gets 2 million shillings as a cash prize. They received their certificates during the quiz competition because it was physical. Nkumba University is the first runner-up and gets 1 million Ugandan shillings.
Wait for him first to go. Once you receive your award and you take a picture, please you give us space.
And the final one is the second runner-up. And the second runner-up was Tourism Institute of East Africa, and they received 500,000 as a cash prize. Nkumba University is the first runner-up, receives 1 million Ugandan shillings. We would like to thank Miss Pragna Shiri and the father, the Honorable Council of Colombia, Uganda. Would like to thank Miss Pragna Shiri, who is handing over the parcels to the minister, and her father, Honorable Council of Colombia to Uganda, Mohan Raul, for sponsoring the awards for the primary school category under the Friends of UWEC program. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. That marks the end.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, that marks the award for the winners of the conservation competitions. Now, allow me to invite the Commissioner for Wildlife Conservation, the Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities to come and present the successful nominees for the annual Wildlife Conservation Awards to be awarded by none other than you, Your Excellency. Thank you. We are waiting for the Commissioner.
Thank you. I'm Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, our Honorable Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Honorable Ministers present, the Honorable Members present of Parliament, our Permanent Secretary, Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Executive Directors of the agencies, the Chairman LC5 Wakiso District, the Mayor of Entebbe Municipality, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, every year we send out a notification looking around, scouting for individuals and organizations that have significantly contributed towards wildlife conservation, tourism development and promotion. And we also look around for people who have supported the community livelihood enterprises and projects, and those who have been involved in a long-term wildlife research, as well as addressing human-wildlife conflicts. Now, a committee was constituted to vet the nominees and the proposals, and Your Excellency, we zeroed down on the following. Category 1, these are organizations and individuals that have demonstrated excellency in supporting conservation and sustainable management of wildlife protected areas. And I want to repeat this, Your Excellency, UNDP. We heard from the UNDP representative. They have been very instrumental in supporting conservation projects, community livelihood projects, and poverty alleviation enterprises, as well as promotion and development of tourism. UNDP, please come forward for the award. As UNDP comes in, under this category of sustainable protected area management, Your Excellency, as we will be also receiving Mr. Moses Okua. Mr. Moses Okua has been around supporting conservation. Thank you very much, and congratulations, UNDP, for the support. Your Excellency, Mr. Moses Okua is also recognized under this category for having been around since 1970, and he worked as the Commissioner Wildlife Conservation at the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, and then he was a chief game warden under the game department in 1980s, but he also served for many years around wildlife conservation areas, and he supported and he was very instrumental in the establishment of the current Uganda Wildlife Research and Training Institute. We recognize his immense contribution. Category 2, Your Excellency, are organizations and individuals that have supported sustainable ecotourism development, and under this category we have Mrs. Maria Bariamjura. Mrs. Maria Bariamjura, she's the founder and executive director of Community-Based Tourism Initiative. This is an NGO. She is also a member. Is Maria here? Jowad, maybe someone can pick it for her. But Maria is also a board member of the Wildlife Education Center, WEC, where we are today, where she has served for over 10 years, and she's been also supporting conservation and community development efforts. The board chair of the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center, Mr. Sebina Katumba, is receiving on behalf of Mrs. Maria Baryamujura. Congratulations. The next category, these are under the same, and the next nominees and finalists are the Rwenzori tracking services. These are working around Chirembe in Mount Rwenzori, or mountain of what we commonly know as the mountains of the moon, and they have helped the country to diversify tourism products. They offer an alternative route to getting up there on the mountains and trekking, and they have enhanced the surveillance of wildlife conservation around the region. Rwenzori Trekking Services has also invested heavily in tourism, creating employment opportunities for our people around Mount Rwenzori. Congratulations, Rwenzori Trekking Services. Next is Mr. Herbert Byaruhanga of Uganda Safari Guides Association, the current president of Uganda Tourism Association, but also a key member of the Uganda Bird Guides Club, and he has initiated several Ugandans, the youth, in birding activities. Over 600 youth have been introduced into this activity that is growing, and he has represented Uganda in different meetings, workshops, and for promoting the birding activity. Is Mr. Byaruhanga here? It's not here. Okay, we will continue as we will deliver the Your Excellency, we have a challenge that we've shared with you and the honorable members of human-wildlife conflicts, and they are individuals who have been working closely with us to address this challenge. And here under this category, we have the distinguished community member from Kalenga district in northern Uganda, Mr. Peter Abach, who has been with us since 1995. He was the chairman LC5 Kalenga. He is highly passionate about conservation. He works with the park management at Kidepo Valley National Park, and he has been instrumental in identifying community members to address conflicts. Mr. Abach Peter, you are welcome and congratulations. Thank you very much. Category 4, Your Excellency, are in the distinguished members of the society who have been very active in undertaking research. And here we have Professor Derek Pomeroy, who has been doing work on birds, including, Your Excellency, this other unique species, the marabou stoker, that is found in the district of Katakwi and around the Makshoni Falls. But he's done a lot of work, and he has been at Makerere since 1969, spearheading and promoting conservation of birds. The next is Professor Richard Rangam, who, as a young man in 1974, did his first publication on chimpanzees, and he's been working since 1987. He has been working at Chibare National Park. Currently, he's a retired lecturer, previously, of course, at the Department of Human Evolutionary Biology at the university, Harvard University. But he continues to do research. But Your Excellency and the Honorable Minister, I want to point out that this professor, he's the one who did research that recommended the establishment of a successful chimpanzee tracking site at Kanyanshu in Chivale National Park. His recommendations have yielded very highly positive results as we speak today. He's at Harvard. He isn't here today with us. The next individuals who have and organizations who have helped us to raise awareness, complement the work of Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center and Uganda Wildlife Authority and the Wildlife Clubs of Uganda. And here in this category we have Kavumba Recreational Center. Kavumba, they have been highly active in doing awareness. Next category, Your Excellency, are individuals who have given their time to supporting community livelihood enterprises. And here we have Mr. Tinker John from Kiwara Association for Rural and Environmental Development. Tinker is an individual that has done work around the wetlands of Bigodi and in Kamwenge districts, and this wetland has elevated the protection of monkeys, birds, and other wildlife species, and this has led to the winning of several awards, including the Equator Initiative Award that is awarded to individuals who excel in conservation and livelihood enterprise development projects. The next is a category of, thank you very much. The next is the category of wildlife conservation media. Your Excellency, we have people who have been passionate in the media fraternity about wildlife conservation, and here we have Mr. Sudhir Byaruhanga of NTV. He's been he authored and investigated cases of the disappearing forests around Mabira, and then the panorama case around Mount Kei, and also destroying River Musamya in Ibuikwe. Sudhir, you are welcome. The next category is for individuals and organizations that have helped us to support conservation of species that are endangered. And their efforts have helped us to recover the populations of these species. And here, Your Excellency, we have International Crane Foundation. These are our colleagues that are working with the ministry and the other partner agencies to protect our national bird, whose population has been declining over the years from almost 35,000 to about 8,000. And we are working closely with them to protect the gray-crowned crane. International Crane Foundation, thank you very much and congratulations. Your Excellency, thank you for giving us your time, and congratulations to all the award winners. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to the winners, the primary, secondary, and tertiary categories for the conservation competitions. And also, we congratulate the winners, or the nominees, the successful nominees for the annual Wildlife Conservation Awards. Hongera sana. Next on our program, Your Excellency, is the launch of projects and handover of equipment, and we want to begin by the Children's Center. I request the responsible person from the UNDP to come and do the honors on that. As that happens, it will be the same person also to do with the drones, but please do come. And I want to invite the Executive Director of Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center, Dr. James Singusozo, to come because you are the recipient.
Your Excellency, the Vice President, Cabinet Ministers, State Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am glad to announce that the United Nations Development Program sponsored a Children Wildlife Discovery Center. This is a building with some equipment that is going to be assisting us in our quest for conservation education to the children. This center has got storage for domestic animals and wild animals. It is an interactive center where children will be interacting with animals, both domestic and wild animals, so that we can teach them from the known to the unknown. It's going to be acting as a center for promotion of foundation science in Uganda, because we want to inculcate the love and passion for science amongst our children. I would like to invite everybody, after the official function, you can pass by to have a look at this Wildlife Children Discovery Center. And on behalf of the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center, I would like to thank the United Nations Development Program for investing up to $78,000 to be able to fund this activity. $28,000. Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause to UNDP. Thank you very much. The ceremony was done by Her Excellency the Vice President this morning, and you are invited to have a look at the facility before you leave. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Edie. Now we are going to have again the UNDP. Your Excellency, the UNDP rep is going to hand over drones and radio handsets to Uganda Wildlife Authority, and also hand over classification equipment to Uganda Tourism Board. I want to invite the Executive Director of Uganda Wildlife Authority and the CEO of Uganda Tourism Board to come over to receive these items.
Thank you. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Minister for Trade and for Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, the ambassadors, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tom Sengarama. I'm the team leader for Nature, Climate, Environment and Resilience, Energy and Resilience at the UNDP. And I take the pleasure today of handing over the drones that have been provided to Uganda Wildlife Authority for purposes of enhancing surveillance and monitoring of illegal wildlife crime, but also enhancing the monitoring of conservation activities across the national parks, and also the radios that we have provided to UWA for the same purpose. We thank UWA for the great work that they are doing in conserving the biodiversity in this country, and commit to continue working closely to support Uganda's conservation efforts. Do we have to open them? Yes, we are handing over the radios to the UWA.
And the drones, there's also... No, we don't need to open. I think we just... Or the drones.
Okay.
I don't know if this is...
These are the drones. They are already here. So do you want us to...
Turn the box. Let's turn the box. Let's turn
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the set of the drones. Thank you.
I want to appreciate the United Nations Development Program for this support. The drones and the radios will be used in our law enforcement, but also in the monitoring of wildlife in the protected areas. And we are sure that they will help us a great deal, including in dealing with human-wildlife conflict. We appreciate and thank you, Your Excellency, for being available to honor this occasion. Thank you.
There's a place that your heart will follow. It's our very own. We don't need to.
So this is also equipment that we are handing over to UTB for the classification, and we are handing over to Ms. Lily Ajarova from UNDP. Thank you. Lily, UTB. Yes, from UNDP. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, our Honorable Minister, Tom Butime, the distinguished Honorable Ministers, the ambassadors, the MPs, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I take this opportunity to thank the UNDP as I receive, on behalf of Uganda Tourism Board, 40 pieces of iPads with the softwares that is going to help us in the classification and grading of the accommodation facilities in Uganda. Your Excellency, you attended the launch of Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. With that, with the brand, we have a brand promise as Uganda to provide the best service in our hospitality industry. And this equipment is going to help us be more efficient in the way that we are going to deliver this service. It's going to cut our man hours by 50%, and it's also going to make it more efficient for the East African assessors who do this work to grade, to classify and grade the hospitality facilities, to have it more convenient for them doing this. We appreciate UNDP very much. Once again, we have had a lot of support for inclusive tourism development and also adventure tourism by promoting Rwenzori Mountain, among others. And we look forward for making sure that the Pearl of Africa shines. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, at this time, allow me to invite the USAID Mission Director, who will introduce the Strategic Investment Fund, which has been and which will be unveiled today, and also the beneficiary community, specifically Rwempogo Dairy Cooperative. And I will ask the Minister to join the Mission Director in doing this. Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Epa
Good afternoon once again. It's my pleasure to introduce to you the new USAID Uganda Biodiversity for Resilience Strategic Investment Fund, the Strategic Investment Fund. This is an 8 billion Uganda shilling investment fund, and it's designed to support local enterprises for biodiversity conservation. The fund provides direct financial support in the form of grants to private sector businesses and other community-based enterprises toward achieving biodiversity conservation objectives. These grants will stimulate investment in nature-based economies in the Greater Kadepo Valley, Murchison Falls, Lake Mburo, Chambura Wildlife Reserve, and Kalinzu and Budongo forest areas. The grant recipients must demonstrate plans to make a positive and measurable impact or contribution to biodiversity conservation and to develop resilient and diversified local economies. And the targeted sectors are climate smart, organic or restorative agriculture, ecotourism, forestry, wildlife-based enterprises, renewable energy, and aquaculture. And other sectors could be eligible if they contribute to the overall objectives. So, with this fund, there are 3 levels of grants. They're small, medium, and large, ranging from 35 million Ugandan shillings to 875 million Ugandan shillings. And today, I'm very happy to announce the very first fund recipient. After a competitive selection process, we have selected Rimpogo Dairy Cooperative as the first recipient of a grant of 500 million Ugandan shillings. So, congratulations. Okay. And so, I believe that I'll turn the time to the MC now, and then we will do the handover after that.
Yeah, we'll invite the chief guest, the vice president, to sign it off.
I think if we want to hear from the
Yes.
recipient first.
Oh, yes, the recipient. After receiving it?
Yes, after him.
Okay, fine.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, kindly allow me to say protocols observed. I am Charles Biona from Rwempogo Dairy Cooperative Society. This is a community-based cooperative dairy society. Our main activity is we are dairy farmers, 130 dairy farmers, and 9 groups of youth and mainly of women. We are into apiary, goat rearing, and bull fattening. We have received an award to improve the quality and quantity of dairy products of over 130 dairy farmers. We received a 5,000 liter milk cooling plant. This is to improve the capacity and the efficiency, which will thereby increase revenues of the people living within the conservancy area around Lake Mburo National Park. We are establishing, through the same award, we are establishing a solar-powered cooling facility, which will facilitate in the savings of the cost that would be going into the fuel to run the cooling facility. We shall establish the veterinary shop purposely to manage the animal health and treatment. And we shall establish the farm implement shop to improve on the dairy farmers and promote sustainable grazing. How does this relate to the conservation and management of the Rurambira Conservancy around Lake Mburo National Park? With additional revenues from improved milk production, we are hiring a manager for the conservancy that is going to be our support to conservancy. And then we shall also invest in ecotourism to promote how we live with wild animals. We shall implement our management plan so that the wildlife habitats and the communities are resilient, prosperous in and outside Lake Mboro National Park. I would therefore like to thank the USAID Uganda Biodiversity for the Resilience activity for awarding us one of the first awards under this strategic investment fund. Thanks to UA for allowing this happen and enabling this collaboration for our success. I thank you very much. May God bless you. Thank you.
Her Excellency is going to sign off the check, and I think the recipient, and they will hoist it for all of us to see. Some of you are far, maybe you are unable to see it here now. Thank you. They're now going to hand it over to the recipient. The recipient is this side. Please do receive. Come this side and receive. And once you've received it, please hoist it so that everyone here testifies to the fact that you received it on this 3rd day of March 2022. The next will be accountability. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we continue to thank Her Excellency the Vice President for dedicating all this time to be with us. This morning she's with us, and as you can see, she's comfortably settled, waiting to ensure that we conclude the program as per planned. I also wish to acknowledge the presence of Nature Uganda, who have been working with us closely, and thank you so much for being here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, it is this time that I want to request Her Excellency to allow me to invite the Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities to come and make remarks, and also invite Her Excellency to speak to us. You're welcome, sir.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Ministers, the Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, and the Ministers of State, Finance and Tourism, the Honorable Members of Parliament who are here, especially members of the Trade Tourism Committee of Parliament, and of course other distinguished members of Parliament here, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Kegegwa District, who was the former board member of UWEC. She is now board member emeritus. Your Excellencies, ambassadors, heads of mission, permanent secretary, especially the PS Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, directors and commissioners, board of trustees, chief executives, development partners, private sector, associations, chairperson, Wakiso District, the mayor, Entebbe municipality, soon to be a city, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome Your Excellency and all guests present here and those online to mark the 9th United Nations World Wildlife Day 2022. Your Excellency, colleagues, honorable members, excellencies, thank you for honoring our invitation. You know, it feels great when you invite and those invited turn up. So thank you for coming and thank you for turning up. As you are aware, the 20th of December 2013, the 68th session of the United Nations General Assembly under Resolution 68205. I will not go into this history because the history has been very well put by the Permanent Secretary when she was making her statement. I will now go to this year, 2022. Your Excellency, this year's World Wildlife Day is being celebrated under the theme Recovering Key Species for Ecosystem Restoration. The theme is highly relevant to Uganda. It emphasizes the critical role the keystone species of plants and animals, many of which are threatened or endangered, the role they play in ensuring ecosystem health and human survival. It highlights the need to protect and conserve critically endangered species, support restoration of their habitats and ecosystems, and promote sustainable utilization by the human race. Your Excellency, the figures as far as the ecosystem, about 10% of Uganda's total surface area is gazetted as wildlife conservation areas, 10%. 24% forest reserves and 13% as wetlands. So Uganda has 734 wildlife 734 protected and conservation areas comprising of 10 national parks, 12 wildlife reserves, 10 wildlife sanctuaries, 5 community wildlife areas, and 506 central forest reserves, 181 local forest reserves. And the Ministry of Tourism is responsible for conservation and management of wildlife resources, not only in those protected areas, but also outside the protected areas in the whole country. With these protected areas and beyond, our scientists have discovered 18,783 species of flora and fauna, making Uganda among the most biodiversity-rich countries in the world. And in her statement, the UNDP representative, she did catalog, she did tell us, and eloquently, how much Uganda contributes to the world biodiversity. And you can't really be a better advocate now than the NDP representative. And I thank her. She has so much information, and I congratulate her a great deal. But Your Excellency, the above immense diversity of animals, plants, and beautiful landscapes mountains, forests, wetlands, and friendly people, among others, have made Uganda a premier tourist destination. Wildlife-based tourism has been flourishing prior to COVID-19 and continues to grow. Africa's traditionally known Big Five occur in Uganda, and these include the lion, the leopard, elephant, buffalo, and rhino. However, Uganda is incredibly blessed with the additional Big Five that include the mountain gorilla, the giraffe, the chimpanzee, the hippo, and the cheetah. Going forward, we shall be making the Big Ten only found in Uganda. However, this treasure is under threat from poaching, illegal trade, and trafficking. Habitat loss resulting from agriculture encroachment, illegal logging, wildfires, climate change, among others. It should be noted that a number of interventions are being undertaken to restore some of the species facing extinction, for example, the gray-crested crane, the lion, the black and white rhino, Zoka Forest Wildlife Reserve, among others. The Ministry of Tourism spearheaded formulation of Uganda Wildlife Policy 2014, Uganda Tourism Policy 2015, and Uganda Tourism Development Master Plan 2014-2024. We have also strengthened the legal and institutional framework through review and subsequent enactment of the Uganda Wildlife Act 2019. Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center Act 2015, the Uganda Wildlife Research and Training Institute Act 2015 as well. In order to eliminate and reduce threats to our charismatic megafauna and many other species, we shall continue to work with stakeholders to implement the various policies, laws, action plans, and strategies to combat species loss and enhance recovery of populations. Your Excellency, our approach is to actively promote effective stakeholder engagement, involvement, and support to conserve wildlife. I therefore implore partners and stakeholders present and online to continue working with us and supporting the Ministry of Tourism to ensure enhanced protection and sustainable utilization of our wildlife resources. I thank all the stakeholders, individuals, institutions outlined by the Master of Ceremonies, the PS statement, who have generously supported this cause. I also welcome the queens who are here. The Miss Tourism, Miss Environment, Miss Uganda, I think Miss World, I think there must be another. But I congratulate you, I welcome you. I hope that after this function you'll find time to walk around the zoo so that you can see some of the rare species which we did arrange for you here to see. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, I once again welcome you to this function, to this occasion, the World Wildlife Day 2022, and definitely wish you happy celebrations. It is now my pleasure. I now request Your Excellency, the Vice President of Uganda, to address us. Asante muno. Thank you very much.
the Honorable Tom Butime, the Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, the Honorable Ministers present, notably the Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, Minister of Finance, and the Minister of State for Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, the Honorable Members of Parliament present, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, members of the Diplomatic Corps, and heads of missions, the permanent secretaries present, and specifically the permanent secretary of Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, senior government officials, directors, commissioners, board of trustees and chief executives of agencies, local government leaders, the LC5 chairman of Wakiso district, and your lordship, the mayor, the development partners, private sector associations, representatives of the media, all invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am pleased to be here with you today as we commemorate the 9th United Nations Wildlife Day in Uganda. I congratulate the people of Uganda and the National Resistance Movement on this very important day. I similarly congratulate the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities for organizing and spearheading arrangements to celebrate this day today in Uganda. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, you are all aware that the 1995 Constitution clearly articulates the need to protect wildlife for the benefit of all Ugandans under objective and directive principles of state policy. The Constitution obliges the state to protect important natural resources, including land, water, wetlands, minerals, fauna and flora, on behalf of the people of Uganda. In addition, the Constitution mandates the state and the local governments to create and develop parks, reserves, and recreation areas and ensure the conservation of natural resources, as well as promote the rational use of natural resources so as to safeguard and protect the biodiversity of Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, you may wish to note that globally, according to the United Nations World Tourism Organization, between 2009 and 2019, tourism saw continued growth and diversification and had become one of the largest and fastest growing economic sectors in the world. In 2019 alone, for instance, international tourist arrivals overnight reached 1.5 billion worldwide, following a decade of uninterrupted growth. Arrivals increased by an average of 5% per year between 2009 and 2019. Tourism also became one of the world's major trade categories, with export revenues from tourism reaching United States $1.7 trillion in 2019, equivalent to 28% of the world's trade in services and 7% of overall exports of goods and services. In Uganda alone, tourism accounted for 7.75% of national gross domestic product by 2018. In 2019, the contribution of travel and tourism of GDP was 7.9%, and revenues amounted to $1.6 billion. This is a significant contribution to our economy, but not adequate to lift our people out of poverty. However, tourism receipts dropped substantially to $0.5 billion in 2020 due to the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. There are, however, positive prospects for the sector growth in the coming years. We need to do more by undertaking aggressive marketing, training and equipping our people, developing and protecting the attractions and improving the infrastructure. It is important for me also to mention that between 1950 and 1960s, a number of conservation areas were created, such as national parks and game reserves, to protect wildlife and its habitats in Uganda. But by 1986, Uganda had 4 national parks, including Queen Elizabeth National Park, Lake Mburo National Park, Murchison Falls National Park, and Kidepo Valley National Park. 3 of these had been created by the colonial government, but since 1986, the NRM government has created 6 more national parks, including Kibale National Park, Semuliki National Park, Buindi Impenetrable National Park, Mgahinga Gorilla National Park, Mount Elgon National Park, and Rwenzori Mountains National Park, to increase our national parks to 10% countrywide. To increase our national parks to 10 countrywide. So I think that's a big milestone for the sector and development partners, and indeed government, and the minister and his team deserve big thank you for this. We did this well, aware that tourism would play a significant role in our transformation efforts as we move towards achieving the middle income status. Ladies and gentlemen, the NRM government thus continues to create a conducive and enabling environment for wildlife conservation and tourism development. As you may have heard from the Honorable Minister, a number of policies, regulations, and strategies have been formulated. Institutions have been set up to facilitate efficient and effective management of wildlife resources across the whole country. The results of these efforts can be appreciated from the recovery of animal populations. For instance, between 1983 and 2021, buffaloes have increased from 25,000 to 44,163. Elephants have increased from 2,000 to 7,975. giraffes have increased from 350 to 2,072. Similarly, mountain gorillas have increased from 320 to 459. That is between 1999 and 2021. Government has been able to successfully reintroduce rhinos back to Uganda that had gone extinct in the early 1980s. The initial population of 8 has successfully bred and multiplied to the current population of 32 rhinos. We have made progress, but we have a long way to go. It is time for us all to work together through efforts to recover declining populations such as chimpanzees, lions, among others. Government will continue to promote tourism as a key driver in the socio-economic transformation of Uganda. We shall continue to implement the numerous initiatives as envisaged in our Vision 2040 and the National Development Plan 3 with a view to attaining enhanced sector growth and increased foreign exchange earnings. As government, we shall continue to strengthen peace and security, which are fundamental for the tourism industry, in addition to investing resources in the sector. There is an improved budget each year for marketing and promoting protected areas, and the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities in general. A number of tourist roads have been earmarked for paving and tarmacking. However, in order to sustainably harness benefits from wildlife, we need to urgently halt poaching, address encroachment on protected areas, mitigate climate change effects, address human-wildlife conflicts, and a number of other factors that are likely to constrain the tourism sector growth. We need to work together to find lasting solutions to emerging threats to wildlife, such as poaching, encroachment, habitat loss, and wildlife conflicts, among others. We must discourage destructive activities, sustainably harness our heritage and natural resources for the development and improved livelihoods of our people. Allow me to thank specifically UNDP for the project which I launched when I had just arrived here of the Children's Center, which is a new addition to this very important Uganda Wildlife Education Center. As government, I would like to extend our sincere appreciation to you and also for the equipment which you handed over to the ED of this area. Allow me also to extend my thanks to the EU ambassador and the US ambassador for their continued support to government in general, but particularly on the tourism sector, and for the support which we also handed over right away of 8 billion Uganda shillings. Thank you very, very sincerely. And I would like to assure you of our continued cooperation in order to move our country to the middle income status. Let me also take this opportunity to thank the Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, the Honorable Kanotom Butime. When Mr. Muzingusi was speaking here and appreciating him, I say that Mr. Muzingusi knows that he has the best. The minister, Tom Butime, is one of the ministers who does a work, but not just doing it, but he does it very well. I would like to encourage you to continue doing so. And also I would like to thank you, our permanent secretary, Doreen Katsime. And when the Mr. Musingus was also asking the Minister Musasizi to add money in the budget, I was almost inclined to support Mr. Musingusi, but I know that the minister might again accuse me, because we do have meetings together when we take such decisions, especially on the budget. But I just want to persuade the minister that having seen what you have seen here, and now I want to give you assurance that Doreen Katsime is a good PS who also puts resources to their intended use. I know her personally. She doesn't belong to a category which needs close supervision. She will do work very well and give you accountability. So I am sure Honorable Musasisi, who is a very intelligent person, has already taken note of that, and I think that you will do something about it on the budget for tourism. I have been to this place very many times, for I want to support the idea of establishing these kinds of centers in other regions of the country. As it was earlier on noted, it is indeed very easy for anyone to think of visiting this kind of area than thinking of visiting a bigger game park. I give myself as an example. I have been deliberately to Kidepo Valley National Park once. I plan to go there once. I have also been deliberately to Queen Elizabeth National Park once. I plan to go there. I have been there once. For the case of Merchant Falls, I normally ask my driver when I'm going to Arua that let's go towards the time when elephants are coming to the road, then we shall see those elephants. And also for Lake Mburu, I always tell the driver when the zebras are about to come out, let's pass around that time. But I have personally been to this place 7 times. 7 times. And that means that it is a bit convenient. I thank the UN for the Children's Center, because when I came here a long time ago with my children, one of them was in nursery, top class. So she was just holding her crucifix in the hand. And at the entrance there where there is now that computer which tracks, there were a lot of monkeys there. So one monkey just picked her crucifix from the hand, and she was so shocked, we had to cancel her. We were asking her, why are you so shocked? She said, I didn't know that animals also eat the same food like people. So that center will go a long way in helping children to understand the characteristics of animals and consequently coexist with animals after understanding their value. Mr. Musazisi, these people have leopard. The 7 times I have seen leopards, a leopard. I saw a leopard. They have crocodiles. They have ostriches. They have tortoises, the tortoise. They have snakes. They have pythons. They have rhinos, crocodiles, monkeys, and that family of monkeys. And those are a few that I can remember. So when Mr. Muzingus was saying that they need to feed them, I don't even know what some of them eat. So I think you need to give them a listening ear. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I thank you for your time, and I thank the minister and his team for inviting me to be part of this very important ceremony. And I would like to congratulate the ministry again for spearheading preparations and the people of Uganda for joining all of us to celebrate this important event. I thank you, and I have said all this for God and my country.
Your Excellency, we are joining you there. I am inviting the ministers, excellencies, ambassadors, PSCs to come and take a picture with you. So please, excellencies, can you come over?
Uganda Nujinyo, the pearl of Africa, the land of beauty, good people everywhere. Uganda Nujinyo, the pearl of Africa, the land of beauty, good people everywhere. Seta kagenda bunaira, ngazali wa musenyu jegengera. Uganda siyange njagala erimwe ebirungi ebyegombesa tunuulira ebyobulambuzi tulina bingi ebisikiriza bwe tugako mu west notunuulira nogendako mu east notunuulira bwotuukako eyo mu northern Uganda ojja kuvaayo weewuunya. Is the pearl of Uganda nnyo the pearl of Africa, the land of
Can the members of parliament please come? Members of parliament. Their excellencies can go back so that the MPs have a photo opportunity with the vice president.
It's our very own, we don't need to borrow.
Meanwhile, the queens, please prepare to come. Queens.
Where all your memories will light up and go to a place where the sun rises. Open your eyes and you feel alive.
Thank you, honorable members. Thank you for coming. Can we have the queens? Queens. Okay. We work Uganda Wildlife Education Center. Can you come? Uganda Wildlife Education Center staff and the board.
Can you feel the spirit? From east to west, my home is the best. I feel so proud and I'm thumping my chest. I got my swag on and I'm feeling the vibe. We all get along no matter
The board, where is Dr. Latim Nede?
we can do all night. We living life of joy because we are Uganda. She is the mother that gave us the life. We brothers and sisters, so let us unite to share
Thank you.
love, preserve,
Chief executives from the Ministry of Tourism. Chief executives. Chief executives, please. And of course, Honorable Migereko, members of the board. UTB, UA, UHCTI, Uganda Wildlife Training Institute. I saw Dr. Mugisha here. UHCTI, I can't see the I cannot see the principal. She's here. Once you see Robert Baruch has come, then everybody is here. Because he comes from Kasese, which is very far.
Can you feel the spirit? From east to west, my home is the best. I feel so proud and I'm thumping my chest. I got my swag on and I feel
Thank
the
you.
vibe. We all get
So, Your Excellency, we can now ask you to cut the cake. Thank you.
we living life of joy because we are Uganda.
Can I ask Mzee Mwebesa, can you please?
We brothers and sisters, so let us unite to share love, preserve the culture we have. Let joy to relation prevail.
Honorable Mwebesa.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Excellency. The cake was prepared by UHTTI and the partners. We are now going to get up standing for the anthems. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get up standing for the anthems in reverse order. When I say reverse order, we'll start with the anthem of East Africa and then the national anthem.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together and thank Her Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, for honoring our invitation and spending all the time with us today. We are immensely thankful, Your Excellency. There are cards that have been given, lunch coupons, meal cards. Those with cards written on executive, please deal with the ladies in red, but also, and those with cards written on O, please, you go to the restaurant here. It is Rhino Restaurant. Thank you.
In 2022, the government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, together with key partners, will be commemorating the World Wildlife Day.
MBs are now bigger MBs only on MTN. When you load a daily bundle of 250 shillings, you no longer get 15 MBs, you get 30 MBs. For 500 shillings, you no longer get 40 MBs, you get 80 MBs. For 1000 shillings, it's no longer 100 MBs, it's 180 MBs. Dial *150 *10 hash or use the My MTN app to load bigger daily bundles only on MTN.
MTN is regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
You know, you could just buy a new smartphone from anywhere in Uganda. Dial *175 *94 hash to activate their 100% double data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles for 3 months. Better yet, you automatically receive free 1 GB valid for 30 days. You are